Most side hustle advice is designed for people who have unlimited time and zero responsibilities. If you're working a 40 or 50-hour week, that advice isn't just unhelpful, it's a recipe for burnout. The reason most people fail to build a second income stream isn't a lack of effort. It's because they choose the wrong tier of activity for their specific life constraints. They trade their remaining drops of daily energy for low-level tasks that never scale. And they quit before anything compounds. But today, we're dismantling the easy money myth. We're going to categorize side hustles by their leverage potential so you can choose a path that respects your full-time career while building something that actually grows. The Constraint Mirror. If you're watching this, you likely fall into a specific profile. You have a stable primary income, but your time is a finite, dwindling resource. You have perhaps 60 to 90 minutes an evening. Your mental energy is depleted by 7 p.m. And you aren't looking to gamble your savings on some dropshipping empire that requires 12 hours of setup before you see a single result. You need low-barrier entry points that don't require a decade of specialized experience. But you also need a path that doesn't keep you permanently stuck in a time-for-money trap. Here's the thing: most content in this space won't say directly. Your willpower reservoir is drained by the time you sit down to work on anything new. Not if the side hustle you choose has high friction, meaning it takes 30 minutes just to set up your tools before you've done a single productive thing, you will quit. Not because you're lazy, because the cognitive cost is too high given what you've already spent that day. That's the real constraint we're designing around. Stability first, expansion second. We aren't looking for an escape plan. We're looking for an optionality builder and the leverage ladder. To understand which side hustle fits your situation, you have to understand the 3 tiers of income expansion. Because not all income-generating activity is equal. Some side hustles trade your hours directly for cash. Others build something that compounds over time. The difference between the two is what we call leverage, the mechanism that allows your income to grow without requiring a proportional increase in your time. Tier 1 is quick cash. Task-based marketplaces, micro gigs, local service work. High effort, low leverage, but immediate entry. You're trading time for a check, and the ceiling is low. The realistic use case here isn't financial planning, it's proof of concept and habit formation. Tier 2 is skill-based income. This is where you learn a simple, marketable micro skill. The hourly value is higher. Competition drops significantly because most people aren't willing to spend 3 weeks learning a tool. And it starts to become scalable in a way Tier 1 never will. Tier 3 is asset and platform leverage. This is the long game. Systems, digital assets, audience platforms. Things that generate distribution or demand while you're at your primary job. The time horizon is 6 to 12 months before results are meaningful. Most people fail because they try to jump to Tier 3 without the skills from Tier 2. Or the discipline and proof points from Tier 1. The latter works in sequence. Each rung teaches you something the next one requires. Tier 1. The entry point's time to first income, 1 to 4 weeks. If you have zero experience and need to see a result quickly to stay motivated, you start here. The goal isn't the money. The goal is establishing the psychological proof of concept that the internet can send you money, and that you can follow through when there's no manager enforcing a deadline. User testing and feedback. Companies pay for objective feedback on software and websites before they launch publicly. You record yourself navigating a product and speaking your thoughts aloud. Setup difficulty is low. You need a laptop and a microphone. Skill requirement is minimal, beyond the ability to think out loud and articulate a reaction. Income here is supplemental. Think of it as bill-paying money, not wealth-building money. Leverage is very low. You are strictly trading minutes for dollars, and the volume ceiling will frustrate you if you approach it with the wrong expectations. Microtasking for AI training platforms require human judgment To verify data for machine learning, labeling images, correcting text outputs, categorizing responses. Startup cost is 0. Time to first result is typically within the first 2 weeks. The reality? It's repetitive. It isn't engaging work, but it answers the foundational question of whether you can show up consistently for something that doesn't have immediate intrinsic reward. That answer matters more at this stage than the income figure. The financial risk in Tier 1 is low. The saturation risk is real. You are competing with a global pool of participants, and platform algorithms favor established profiles. Treat this tier as an experiment, not a career. Tier 2, skill-based leverage. Time to first income, 4 to 12 weeks. This is where we move from tasks to services. This tier requires a learning curve, but that learning curve is precisely what reduces competition. Most people won't spend 3 weeks becoming proficient at a tool. The ones who do move into a smaller pool with higher rates. Specialized transcription and technical scribing. Not general typing, but using AI-assisted tools to clean up legal, medical, or technical audio. You use software to handle 80% of the transcription and then apply human judgment for the final 20% that requires context and accuracy. A machine can't reliably provide. The leverage here comes from the tool doing the volume work, while your skill handles the quality layer. Hourly value is higher than Tier 1 because you're delivering a finished professional product, not just completing a task. Creative microservices. You don't need to be a graphic designer. You need to be proficient in one specific tool for one specific output. Presentation decks, any social media templates, document design. The strategic move here is narrow positioning. Don't market yourself as a designer. Be the person who builds pitch decks for a specific type of client. Specificity reduces competition and increases the perceived value of what you're delivering. Platforms that aggregate demand, freelance marketplaces, mean you don't have to spend your limited evening hours on outreach. The platform handles distribution. You handle delivery. And the income timeline in Tier 2 is honest. There's a learning gap where you're investing time before earnings become consistent. Some people report meaningful supplemental income by month 2 or 3. Others take longer. The variable is how much learning you're willing to front-load before the first dollar arrives. The hidden cost layer. This is the part most side hustle content skips because it doesn't convert well. Most beginners quit by month 3. Not because the work is too hard, but because of accumulated friction they didn't account for at the start. There's platform dependence to consider. If your income relies entirely on one marketplace, you're subject to policy changes, algorithm updates, and demand shifts you can't control. That's not a reason to avoid platforms. They provide real value, especially early. It's a reason to treat any single platform as a distribution channel, not a stable employer. There's also the saturation reality in Tier 1 specifically, and the volume of new participants has outpaced demand growth in many categories. Getting your first few reviews can feel like a second job, layered on top of your actual job. And then there's the burnout risk, which is the most underestimated cost of all. Adding 10 to 15 hours of unfamiliar cognitive work per week on top of a full-time job is a real physical and mental load. The side hustles that survive this pressure are almost always the ones that align with natural working preferences, not the ones that promise the highest theoretical income in a YouTube thumbnail. Choosing based on leverage type matters more than choosing based on potential earnings. That's the filter that prevents the month 3 dropout. Tier 3. The upgrade path. Time to meaningful results, 6 to 12 months. You shouldn't start here with no experience, but you should know this is where the ladder leads, because it changes how you approach the earlier tiers. Digital asset components. Templates, specialized checklists, datasets, structured frameworks that others use to do their jobs faster. You build it once. It continues generating value after the build is complete. The leverage level here is high. The catch is that it requires genuine understanding of what the market actually needs. And that understanding typically only comes from doing Tier 2 work first. You learn what professionals in a field actually struggle with by serving them directly. That knowledge is what makes a digital asset useful rather than generic. The path is sequential for a reason. Tier 2 skill becomes the foundation for Tier 3 asset. The income growth in this tier depends on increasing leverage, not adding more hours. The strategic selection framework. Don't pick a side hustle based on the highest potential payout you saw in a thumbnail. Pick based on your remaining daily capacity, honestly assessed, not optimistically projected. The brain-dead path. If your job is mentally exhausting and your evenings leave you with low cognitive bandwidth, choose Tier 1 task-based work. It requires no deep thinking. It provides a win through simple completion. It keeps you in motion without demanding creative energy you don't have. The skill builder path. If your job is repetitive but not cognitively draining, use your evenings in Tier 2. Learn a tool. Build a portfolio. Front-load the learning investment while you still have energy reserves to draw on. The systems path. If you have slightly more capital than time, look at tools and platforms that reduce the administrative load around client acquisition and delivery. And the goal is lowering friction so your actual working hours go toward the skill, not the setup. The objective across all three is the same: reduce the time to first dollar. Once that first payment arrives, the psychological shift happens. You stop seeing yourself as only an employee and start seeing yourself as someone who can build leverage outside of a salary. Side hustles aren't really about the extra income in the early stages. They're experiments in a leverage, and each attempt teaches you something about your own execution capacity, your ability to show up consistently when there's no external structure enforcing it, your learning rate under time pressure, your tolerance for the gap between effort and result. That information is more valuable than the first month's earnings. The ones who build lasting secondary income aren't the ones who found the most profitable hustle on day one, and they're the ones who treated the early stages as deliberate skill-building experiments, kept expectations calibrated, moved up the leverage ladder intentionally, and didn't burn out trying to replace their salary before any real foundation had formed. Income grows where leverage exists. That's the principle this channel returns to, regardless of the specific opportunity being discussed. If you're starting now, start with one thing, not three things. 1. Pick based on an honest assessment of your available time and current energy levels. Test it for 8 weeks before deciding whether to continue, adjust, or move on. Stability first, expansion second, leverage always.